David Yaffe-Bellany, welcome back to Hard Fork.
Thanks so much for having me.
And happy Crypto Week.
Happy Crypto Week to you as well. It's a really exciting time.
How does your family celebrate Crypto Week?
A ticker tape parade through the streets of suburban New Jersey, where my parents still live. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So let's talk about what is going on in Washington this week with crypto. I understand there are a number of different crypto-related bills that are moving through Congress right now. Can you just give us the high-level overview of what these bills are and how they're doing?
Sure. So there are three key bills this week, and I'll start with the two that are most important. One is a bill that lays out rules for stable coins, which are an important sector of the crypto industry. And basically, people expect that when that bill passes, it'll make everyone across the U.S. economy really excited about doing stable coins because it's like a big government seal of approval.
This is the Genius Act?
That's the Genius Act, yeah.
And I didn't understand why it was called that, but then I sort of put it together in my mind. It's about the stable genius thing, right?
I think it's a play on that, and then, there's some acronym as well.
Got it. Or a backronym, as they call it.
Yeah, exactly.
They do. That's what they call it. When you want to do an acronym,
actually,
so you sort of reverse engineer something that it stands for.
Yes.
I just because normally I'm the one who derails the conversations with stupid things, so I love it when you do it because it makes me feel less alone.
Oh, do you want to? Okay, smartass.
The
You
Genius
try.
Act is actually named after both of you guys. That's why they call it the Genius Act. Yeah.
Okay, so that is the Genius Act, and that would sort of give some government stamp of approval to stable coins. What else we got?
The next bill is called the Clarity Act. And this is probably the most important crypto bill that we're going to see this year. It's the most sweeping. It's the bill that's sort of directly connected to this battle the crypto industry has had with the SEC over the years. And it basically rewrites the rules of crypto regulation to significantly weaken the SEC's hand and effectively prevent some future Gary Gensler figure from bringing back all those scary lawsuits that the crypto industry was fighting. So that's the Clarity Act. And the politics around it are much more complicated than with the Genius Act. I think, people going into this week expected it to pass the House, but whether it will get the votes it needs in the Senate is much less clear. The third bill is a lot narrower, and it has to do with something called a CBDC, or a central bank digital currency, which is this notion that the U.S. government might issue its own cryptocurrency someday. And this bill blocks that. It's an anti-CBDC bill. And the crypto industry, a lot of parts of the crypto industry have opposed CBDCs for a long time. So this is another kind of industry-backed priority.
Because if the government put out their own currency, it would lessen the prospects of privately created cryptocurrencies.
Yes, that's not what the industry says out loud, but I think most people understand that to be a motivation. The industry also argues that there are privacy concerns, the government could surveil your transactions, that sort of thing. But it's really a hypothetical because the U.S. has never actually seriously considered creating a CBDC. So it's like you're banning something that probably isn't going to happen anyway.
Got it.
Right.
So it sounds from the way you're describing these three bills like what the Republican majority and what the Trump administration are trying to do here is not really like rolling back Biden-era administrations so much as sort of safeguarding crypto from future Democratic administrations or less crypto-friendly administrations that might try to come in and implement new things. Right? Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, that's, I think, a big part of what's happening here is that the crypto industry wants to lock in some of the gains it's made under Trump. It's great from crypto perspective that Trump's SEC has dropped all the cases against crypto companies, but what if a Democrat wins in 2028 and Gary Gensler comes back for round two? The industry could be back where it started, but with a bill like the Clarity Act, it has a lot more protections.
And to what extent are these three bills, David, kind of where do they rank on the wish list of what the crypto industry was hoping for from the Trump administration when they backed him in last year's election?
the two bigger bills, the stablecoin bill and the Clarity Act, which people refer to as the market structure bill, those were the two top priorities of the industry. Those bills are the reason that the industry spent $130 million on, political spending during the 2024 elections, trying to get pro-crypto legislators elected to Congress. They've been kind of the holy grail of the industry for a long time.
Yeah. So, of course, the Trump administration is doing lots of deregulation in lots of different industries. I think what makes the crypto industry unique or somewhat unique in this whole deregulatory picture is that the Trump family is deeply invested in cryptocurrencies and actually has its own stablecoin. So talk a little bit about that and how these bills that are moving through Congress would affect the ability of Donald Trump and his family to make money off their crypto investments.
Yeah, these bills have really direct implications for the Trump family crypto business. So it's most obvious probably on the stablecoin side. The Trump family crypto company, which is called World Liberty Financial, has its own stablecoin. And that's expected to be a huge money-making vehicle for the company. So if a bill passes Congress and gets signed by the president that boosts the prospects of stablecoins writ large, that's obviously great for the Trump family stablecoin. And that's something that Democrats, especially on the Senate side, have been pointing out, and concerns over that actually kind of delayed the passage of that bill in the Senate, though it ultimately did make it through. And then the market structure bill, the Clarity Act, also has very direct effects on the Trump family business. I mean, Trump's heavily invested at this point in all different types of crypto, and so a regulatory environment in which it's easier to offer these coins, more people are buying them. That's great for the Trump family's bottom line.
Now, David, I have a question about cause and effect here, because as this crypto week is happening, as these bills are moving through Congress, crypto tokens themselves, crypto prices are up. Bitcoin is at or near an all-time high as we speak, I believe. A bunch of other cryptocurrencies have been doing quite well. Is that because investors are optimistic that these bills will pass and that the sort of stamp of approval of the government behind the crypto industry will get even stronger? Or is there something about a kind of bull market in crypto that makes passing these kind of bills easier?
Well, clearly the market's just responding to Casey's announcement that he's going to take his hard fork salary in Bitcoin. But,
Yeah, I'm excited about
putting
that.
that aside, yeah, the cause and effect question is a good one. And I think there is a little bit of a sort of chicken and egg issue here, but certainly it's the case that the kind of like exciting crypto week rhetoric has helped the crypto market, and Bitcoin is blasted past $120,000. That's a huge landmark for the industry. So that's definitely linked to everything that's happening in the U.S. But it's all sort of tied together. It's crypto week. It's Trump endorsing Bitcoin. It's the sense that the SEC's campaign against the industry is over. All of those things have sort of combined to boost the market, and then it creates this feedback loop where the market is doing really well, and so that makes Trump and the Republicans even more bullish about crypto, which improves the chances of the legislation getting passed, which in turn causes the market to go up even more. So everything's kind of linked together.
Yeah. I'm curious if there are things in any of these bills that people who are skeptical of crypto might be cheered by. I'm thinking in particular about the part of the Genius Act that, as I understand it, sort of more closely regulates the reserves that these stablecoin issuers are required to have. So this is a little in the weeds, but basically my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that up until now, you could just issue a stable coin without having the sort of direct fiat currency reserves behind that. So if I wanted to issue, 100 million of my Roose coin stable coin, I did not have to have necessarily $100 million in the bank to be able to do that. But this act, as I understand it, will require a kind of one-to-one ratio for stablecoin issuers. So maybe that does in some way make the crypto economy a little bit safer.
Yeah, I mean, one argument that the industry has made about the stablecoin bill all along is that it's better to have some rules than no rules. And it's not as if, we could go back to a world in which there are no stable coins. And so even if you don't think the particular rules in the legislation are perfect, or you think that there are loopholes or whatever, it's still better to have some sort of framework in place. The argument from the crypto skeptics, and there really aren't very many crypto skeptics who are saying, actually the act's pretty good. Their argument is, well, like, don't put a giant government seal of approval on this industry unless you really have the very best, strictest rules that are going to protect consumers. And so, sure, there are elements of the reserve requirements that, definitely seem like an improvement on the kind of like maybe more Wild West status quo. But, the skeptics, point to nuances here and there that they think will endanger consumers. And, they're worried that people will still treat stablecoin issuers kind of like banks, except they're not getting the same protections that you would get if you put your money in a bank account. You don't have FDIC insurance, for example. And so those sort of debates are still going on.
David, what I want to ask you about is, assuming that Trump does sign these bills into law, to what extent does it matter beyond the crypto economy? Does this move us into a world where the regular economy and the crypto economy are more tightly linked? And does that introduce any new risks into the mainstream economy that we ought to be worried about?
Yeah, I think it definitely does link the crypto world more closely to the mainstream economy. I mean, stablecoins are a great example of that. We're already, even before the bill becomes law, seeing reports that the banks and even major retailers like Amazon and Walmart are exploring offering stablecoins of their own, integrating stablecoins into how they function. And that's sort of part of the kind of slow creep of crypto into everyday life. And it's also, I think you can't really underestimate the importance of the government just giving that kind of stamp of approval. Just even putting aside the specifics of the rules, the fact that Crypto Week is happening, that crypto legislation is getting passed, it makes it way more likely that people and businesses are going to want to experiment with this stuff. And if, as many crypto skeptics think, it could all come crashing down at any moment, then that creates new dangers.
Well, and also, I mean, the obvious corruption angle is
Yes.
also one potential fallout. I mean, I can see other politicians, not just in the U.S. but abroad, who are going to see Donald Trump making hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars from his crypto investments, including his stablecoin project, and saying, well, maybe I need a stablecoin too. Maybe I should make some crypto investments. So it does seem like that is one particularly obvious way in which it is going to start to matter to people even beyond the crypto industry, is that this could just become part of the kind of corruption playbook for politicians who want to cash in.
Yeah, and there's, the conflicts of interest are pretty astounding. I mean, Trump announced his support for the Genius Act just a couple of days before his company announced that it was offering its own stablecoin. I mean, the timing was pretty amazing.
Now, David, I want to ask you about something else in crypto that I've been hearing about over the past few weeks that has a lot of people in tech talking, which are these tokenized equities. Can you explain what's happening here?
So this is kind of a big sort of exciting trend in crypto. I mean, I kind of think of it as like on par with the NFT craze of 2021. It's like the next exciting thing that crypto wants to do. And it's something that, the industry calls RWAs, or real world assets, which, are just things in the world, but now we have an acronym for them. And the idea is that you can essentially have a kind of crypto representation of an asset, like a share in a company, or something that kind of exists outside of the crypto world, and that this could create ways for you to sort of trade back and forth really quickly. Some of the advantages of crypto, with stocks and companies, even in potentially private companies. And so this is sort of really at the cutting edge of what the crypto world is trying to do right now.
Now, the reason I heard about this was that Robinhood, whose CEO was a recent guest on our podcast, announced that they were going to start offering these tokenized equities in companies like OpenAI and SpaceX. And these are not publicly traded companies, right? These are private companies. You cannot just log on to your Schwab account and buy shares in OpenAI or SpaceX. But through this sort of tokenized real-world asset process, there had been some sort of mechanism that they had discovered to sort of bundle these private equities together under these crypto tokens. And somehow this was supposed to be legal, even though it would not be legal to market those same stocks to just regular retail investors. Am I hearing that right?
my basic understanding is that the way this works is that, Robinhood can buy shares in SpaceX or OpenAI sort of on the kind of private market, and then can create, crypto token representations of those shares. It's actually almost akin to stable coins, where you have like dollars backing the stable coins. In this case, you have shares of those private companies backing the tokenized representations of those private companies. And then you offer trading in those tokens. And it's part of this kind of like crypto ethos of the little guy shouldn't be shut out of this potentially really remunerative market for shares in private companies. The trader in his basement should be able to get in on the ground floor of this, the same way that like a VC in Silicon Valley can own a bunch of OpenAI shares and become a billionaire when the company goes public. That's my basic understanding of it.
Got it. And I mean, this can't possibly be legal, right? I mean, it's like if you want to list your shares in your company, you have to go through a whole public process. You have to disclose certain audited financials. You have to like file with the SEC. Like there's a whole process that you have to go through to sell your shares to the public. Is there any chance that this kind of tokenized equity thing like stands up either in the Trump administration or in the courts?
I think there's clearly going to be a legal fight over it. I mean, Hester Peirce, who's the super crypto-friendly SEC commissioner, has already come out and said that these are securities. And I mean, she's somebody who's really on the industry side. And so it's definitely, there's going to be a fight over this. And I'm sure, as you saw, OpenAI came out very quickly and said, like, we don't support this.
Right.
So it would surprise me if there wasn't a very prolonged battle over the legality of this. To be clear, Robinhood is only offering this trading in tokenized equities in the EU at the moment. So it's not actually available to American customers at this point.
It's available in the EU and to any American with a VPN, I think was how they framed it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, to me,
sounds like you know a lot about VPNs.
I mean, to me, the story behind the story here was just that like the crypto companies are getting the message from the Trump administration that they are effectively operating in a new world, that they can take risks that they wouldn't have taken under the Biden administration, that they are not going to be subject to, many kinds of enforcement. We also heard just this week that the DOJ's investigation into Polymarket, one of these crypto prediction market companies, was being dropped. So it just seems like no matter where you are in the crypto industry, the message that you are getting from Washington is very clear. And that's like, you guys can kind of do whatever you want now.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. The industry has been emboldened in all sorts of ways, and the push for RWAs, tokenized equities, that's definitely part of that wave.
Yeah. So, David, how is Crypto Week going to resolve? Are we going to see these bills passed? And will we see like many more bills? Are there going to be future Crypto Weeks? Give us a little sense of the future here.
Well, the Genius Act will be sent to President Trump's desk, and the Clarity Act will, get sent over to the Senate, where I think its fate is pretty uncertain. But yeah, I think we're inevitably going to have to check in about this later because it's pretty up in the air right now.
Well, I leave this conversation feeling quite unsettled about the future of the economy. Best of luck to us all.
Yeah. Would you say you're not a very stable Casey right now?
I would, yeah. I'm feeling a little bit less stable, but I do feel like we have a lot of clarity. Thanks to this genius. Thanks, David.
Yeah, thanks, DYB.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.